Hello, everybody, and welcome to WTS243, despite what one of our guests is going to say now in a minute. My name is Danny Murray.
That's Gary Mackle. I'm Graham Errigan, and Paul Howard is with us as well. Hi, Paul. Hi, Gary.
Brilliant to be here.
Hello, gentlemen. It's always great to have the two of you. It's become a thing now that the two of you is like we can't have one without the other. You know,
it's become a bit of a.
It's often enough. I don't know how you feel, Gary. I just kind of think like, you know, we get the call when they're struggling, like, you know, and then in between, I read all these tweets about, this guy, the best guest we ever had on, and listen to this one, everyone. This is the best show we've ever done. And then, you know, me and you, Gary, who I think we more than carry our weight on the show.
Do you know what it's like?
Praise in between. There's never any praise for us, like, you know, and then we get the call, listen, we're stuck.
Danny's Bobby Brown, Merrill's Shug Knight, me and you are Whitney Houston, and we're just being fucking lamped from side to side when it suits them. It's an absolute disgrace.
Well, lads, this is outrageous.
Vulgar, Gary.
Outrageous. I'll tell you what, Gary, right? Give us a blast of the intro there, Gary. You do the intro, and you and Paul host the show for this week.
Okay. Myself and Paul are delighted to confirm some news that we've been approached by a Russian man, Alexander Oleshnikov, and he wants us to open and manage Ireland's first 24-hour arts centre, which opens from the 1st of September 2021. And we're delighted to confirm that the opening act is a tribute to Cher, and it's called Do You Believe in Life After Love? Would you like to add anything to that, Paul?
I would, yeah. Just say it. You know, it is an art centre. The art will generally take place between like 10 o'clock and about 6 in the evening, and then it will obviously turn into a lap dancing club, which is art as well. But there is a grant. We are getting a grant for it from.
Absolutely.
What was it, Gary?
The Arts Council.
Oh, the Arts Council, of course. Yeah, the Arts Council. And but I just kind of think it's just the kind of thing that South Wicklow is crying out for. You know, it's better than another soul song.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Yes.
Absolutely. And
thanks for joining us, guys.
We're looking.
Delighted to be here, lads.
Gary, you're asked there the introduction, not a plug on your.
Well, no, he's obviously done the ad that, you know, comes before. This is the preamble before the intro. This the ad, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, well, look, we're very giddy about it. This has been talked about for the last 2 years. It was signed off last Wednesday. We didn't want to say too much about it. We're going to be doing a YouTube video tomorrow morning, Paul.
Yep.
With Miriam O'Callaghan, and you know, we're excited about it, but we don't want to get carried away about it.
The last thing anybody wants in this area, in particular, Gary, is you know, two kind of impresarios losing the run of themselves. And we're not going to be that kind of operation. I think, I mean, you know, we've discussed it. We have our mission statement, which I haven't read, but I think we have a mission statement, and that's important.
Absolutely. The only thing I want to get out of it is, if I can go to Turkey in the next 5 years and get my teeth done, that'll do me. Anything else is a bonus.
Your teeth are fine.
I have a fang, and I'm just not settled with them.
I'd file that down for you, Gary. I'd file that.
Have you got a sander?
Yeah, I do have a sander, actually. Mary was using it today to sand down a swing in the garden. I mean, that's...
Why weren't you using it, Paul?
Well, we're an equal opportunities house, actually, you know. So we don't have gender assigned roles. Like, you know, I'd push a Hoover around here, absolutely no questions asked. Mary would use a sander. The only rule I have really is that no one's allowed to touch my power hose. Like,
absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
Gary, like I'm obviously very influenced by you, right? You're probably the most important influencer in my life. Because generally anything you recommend, it turns out to be just amazing, like, you know, right from, you know, could be tomato relish, it could be, you know, piece of gadgetry, it always works out. So I'm just happy to reciprocate and recommend this to you. Like, you know, I got this I was going to go cheap with the power hose, and I thought, no, just go massive, right, or go home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's louder than my car, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
how, like that. When I turned it on, right, it's just so loud. And when I use it, it's, you know, like we live in an age, I think, in which, you know, we are, as men, we are being increasingly emasculated, I think, you know. And there are very few things that you know, that you can do these days that actually make you feel that you know, just the thrill of being a male again. And
Mm-hmm.
using my power hose is it for me. It's I mean, the garden's never been cleaner. It's I just
Would you use it on the swing?
would I use on what?
Would you use it on the swing?
I actually it's funny you should say that, Graham, because I did try it. I aimed it at the swing today, and the paint started coming off the swing. We're trying to get it down, just it's rusting, and we're trying to get the thing just sanded down to the rust so we can put metal paint on it. But I mean, it was knocking the swing back and forth. It was like there was a gale in the garden or something. It's a seriously powerful piece of equipment.
What brand is it, Paul?
It's a K something or other.
Karcher.
Yeah, that's all. That's it. I'm going to take a picture of it and send you the model, Gary, because I kind of feel like, you know, it was my good fortune to find out about it, and I should tell as many people as possible. You know,
Karcher specialize in pressure washers, so you've done a good job there.
Yeah. Like, you know, when someone, like, it happens all the time here, because I'm home all day, like I work from home, like at least once a week, someone will call to the door and ask if they want me to, if I want them to, like, power wash the fascia boards or the seat or the roof or something like that. And I just look at their power washer and I just sneer at them. You know, I'm not a sneery guy, but I can't help it. But anyway, we've got house martins nesting in the roof now, so I can't do I can't take the power washer to the roof, which I was dying to do this summer.
What are house martins?
Birds.
They're birds. They're like sparrows or swallows. They're tiny little birds, and they migrate to Africa, and then they come back again. And they always know. It's like they have my air code or something. Like they know exactly where they're going. But
so the band, the house martins are named after birds.
Yeah.
Never knew.
Yeah, that's them.
Every day's a school day.
But I came out of the house the other day, and there was shit everywhere. Because they just eat and shit all day, and there was just shit all over the path and all over the window ledge downstairs. And I was mad, like, you know, for about 5 seconds, and then I just heard little chicks above me in the nest, and I'm just suddenly St. Francis of Assisi, chatting to them and everything. I am just chatting up to them.
But they're filthy, Paul, aren't they?
Oh, they're
rotten.
They're absolutely filthy.
Yeah,
but they'll be gone kind of September, October. They'll fly back to Africa. But the amazing thing about them, because we've had them here loads of times, they keep, and I'm sure it's the same family. Like, you know, I mean, I wouldn't know their faces or anything, but they as soon as they leave, within 24 hours, the nest will fall down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's amazing. So they're obviously kind of keeping the mud wet with their spit and adding to they're obviously keeping it tipping over all the time, like, and improving it, making sure it doesn't fall. But as soon as they go, that will just drop to the ground.
Yeah. They're very industrious, though, to get the night out of it, aren't they? You know, to get the night out of that clutter, like.
Yeah.
Very industrious.
Unbelievable. They eat flies as well, which is great, because the place is just full of them at the moment. I was walking around with the Vapona all day today. You know, you've got the windows and doors open because it's stinking hot at the moment.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And then about 6 o'clock, I have to walk around the house with the can of Vapona, just like massacring flies everywhere I can find them.
I lit a fire in the compost bin there about 2 hours ago.
Jesus.
I just threw in some barbecue fluid and fucked kitchen towel in, lit it on fire because there was flies all over the fucking place. But I scarpered after that. It was grand. So I was delighted with myself, actually.
That's essentially a bomb, isn't it? That's a fertilizer.
Get out of the area, like, you know.
Yeah.
The Birmingham 6 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Delighted.
Are you happy here now without
Yeah,
it?
it's,
Or-
like,
Where's the intro? Or
Do you have questions for us, lads?
well, we've handed
Is
over
this-
the reins to you guys here to host it after Gary's comments there. So we're
No,
just
we
letting you.
didn't say we'd be better hosts. I think we just been a bit disappointed with.
Our
I would
three.
call it lack of love because I don't really need validation from any of you, but apart from Gary, obviously. But I just think there's very little. I just kind of feel there's very little kind of love being pushed our way. It's always this episode, that episode, and I never see any of me and Gary's episodes featuring on the best of.
All right, that point is duly noted, Paul. We'll take
They
that.
haven't
noted.
asked, Paul, they
But-
haven't asked if we have Revolut either. I've noticed.
Graham looks after the accounts, Gary.
Exactly.
Paul, a tweet of yours caught my attention today involving the trip to Athens and orange juice. And I was baffled by the fact that you weren't allowed to drink your orange juice at the Olympics.
Oh yeah.
And then the fact that the Olympics is on at the moment, just thought we'd chat a little bit about that because it's a fucking mad thing altogether.
It brought me back, right? It brought me back. Somebody was tweeting today about how the IOC has told athletes not to take the knee, and they've told them they don't want any selfies of them anywhere on the Olympic premises taking the knee. And yet they use the imagery of the two athletes, Smith and Carlos, at the 1968 Olympics when they did the Black Power salute to the American flag. They use that now as part of the iconography of the Olympics, They pretend the Olympics aren't political, but they use that as part of, like the history. It's pushed now as a significant historical event, which we can look back on and say, oh yeah, that's what the Olympics is all about. And of course, at the time, they were thrown out of the Olympic Village for doing the Black Power salute. And Avery Brundage, the IOC president at the time, put pressure on the American Olympic Committee to throw them out. The American Olympic Committee said, we're not throwing them out. And he said, if you don't throw them out of the Olympic Village, the whole American team will be thrown out of the Olympics. So they had to put them out. And but it just shows you it's kind of like it's really brave. It's easy to stand up for things 50 years after they actually matter. But in the moment, it takes real courage to do it. And that just reminded me today about, the Olympics is coming up this weekend. It shouldn't be happening. It's absolutely ludicrous that they would try to have an Olympic Games with the pandemic on, and given that something like 22% of people in Japan are vaccinated, and you're bringing all these athletes. It's just completely and utterly crazy. I mean, talk about super spreader events. But it just got me thinking about this incident that happened to me on the first day of the Olympics in 2004. It was in Athens. And I went to see the trap shooting because Ireland had a couple of, decent trap shooters at the time. And it was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And I went out and I kind of went in to the venue, showed me accreditation. And I was walking to my seat and there was a stall there selling drinks. So I bought I bought some orange juice, and it was in a glass bottle. And I brought it up and I sat down at my desk and I was taking out my laptop, and this woman with a laminate just appeared at my side and said, you can't drink that here. And I said, what do you mean I can't drink it here? I bought it here. And she said, yes, but it would be, what was it? It would contravene the intellectual property rights of one of our sponsors, which means Coca-Cola, like clearly Coca-Cola. And I said, but you're selling it in the Olympic venue. And she said, we're selling it. It's being sold, and we're not selling it, but it's being sold in the venue. But you can't drink it anywhere where there's a chance that a camera will catch you drinking it, because it's a rights issue. So I said, but what if you walked away from here and I just opened it and drank it anyway? And she said, then we would remove your accreditation to cover the Olympics.
Fucking hell.
And there's something very like Catholic about their zealotry, you know? These are fucking zealots. And this is all because of Juan Antonio Samaranch, who was the president of the IOC, a rabid Catholic, you know, Opus Dei member, all the rest, you know, and his fingerprints are all over this kind of stuff, you know. But it's absolutely neurotic. And I noticed it. Apparently it's got worse since. I put that tweet up today, and a few people have told me it's actually got much worse since then. That, you know, that you're basically signing a contract not to upset any of the sponsors, you know.
So the crack we saw at the Euros with Ronaldo moving a bottle of Coca-Cola away, if that happened at the Olympics, there'd be uproar.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was probably great publicity for Coca-Cola.
The Ronaldo thing.
Yeah.
Their share price dropped apparently by like 5 or 6% in the first 48 hours after it. Yeah. Because
Jesus.
It would have been one thing if he just moved the bottle off camera, but the fact that he was like, drink water, and he was like making a face at the Coke or whatever, I think is what, because similar to yourself, Gary, being so influential, as Paul has pointed out, if you were to do it with a bottle of TK Red Lemonade and tell people to stop drinking that and only drink water, sure, a bottle of TK wouldn't be sold in Arklow, Wicklow, the entire East Coast for quite some time, you know. So Ronaldo had the same effect.
And then, of course, other players carried on moving stuff and then adding stuff into press conferences. But Paul, are we saying here that like marketing is more important now than the actual event? Because that's how it feels.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the case for probably 20 years, I'd say, with the Olympics. You know, those kind of things, keeping the sponsors happy, have just been completely paramount. You know. They call them rights holders. I mean, even it's just interesting the language they use. Like, you know, but they don't call them sponsors; they call them rights holders, which means they're and they also call them stakeholders. Which you know,
similar to all that stuff with the European Super League, and the top six in the Premier League are stakeholders of the Premier League. It just discredits it as a competition, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I can't remember the last time I actually sat down and watched the Olympics, you know.
Really?
I watched a bit of 2012 because it was in London and some of it was a bit of crack, like, you know, and Katie Taylor obviously was great, but I don't think I watched anything in the last Olympics.
How many Olympics did you cover, Paul?
2. I did Sydney in 2000, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. It was my first Olympics. It was a great one to cover. The Australians just knew how to do it well. There was just great stories there, you know, between Sonia and, you know, Kathy Freeman and Ian Thorpe, you know, Peter van den Hoogen band. There was just really, really great stories. And then 2004, I hated in Athens. I didn't enjoy it at all. You know, we got a call. I can't remember where I was. I was out covering something that I was kind of interested in. This is what the Olympics is like. You know, there's 52 different sports or 58 different sports, and there could be 30 events happening at the same time, and 15 of them could involve Irish athletes, and they could be, you know, spread at a distance from here to Galway away. And you just have to pick the right one, you know? So, you know, classically, you'd be at the rowing and you get a call to say, where are you? And you say, I'm at the rowing. And they say, what are you doing at the rowing? One of our sailors is in a bronze medal position, right? So then you've got to go from basically here to Estonia to get to the sailing, you know? But anyway, this happened in Athens. We were told, you know, there's a real feeling that Cian O'Connor could win the gold tonight, you know. So we hightail it out to the equestrian centre and he wins the gold, like on Waterford Crystal, gold for Ireland, you know. And we're sitting there in the media box, like knowing less than fuck all about equestrian, right? Like the last time I watched equestrian, Like it was like the horse show in 1983 or something, the Aga Khan. And afterwards, we used to run through the gardens. Lads, you're too young to remember the days.
I know about the Aga Khan, Paul.
Yeah, but we jump over the hedges, Gary. Like, you'd like so we lived in a terrace house, like at the end of a terrace. So there's like 5 houses. So you're just running through the hedges, just pretending you're horses. Fucking brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And but that was the last time I'd seen it. And then suddenly, Ireland have a gold medal, and so we had to kind of bone up on equestrian, and of course then like 6 weeks later, I was in Paris, and I was covering Ireland against France, and Roy Keane was playing for Ireland. Roy Keane was back playing for Ireland at that stage, and got a phone call to say the horse had failed a drug test, and Keane O'Connor was going to have to give the medal back. And,
yeah.
It was so that's kind of my last experience of kind of, I suppose, taking the Olympics semi-seriously. I saw too many things as well. I remember I was on a bus one night with Paul Kimmage, and we're sitting down the back of it's kind of media bus. There's these buses that do circuits between the media village, the athletes village, and the venue, the stadium. And this athlete got on and took off his shirt, and we're just looking at this back that was just covered in acne. Like, it was like,
no way,
like a pizza, and you know what acne on the back means. I mean, it just steroids, and but it was just how kind of unself-conscious he was of it, and he just was happy to show it off. And there were some performances on the track and in the pool in those Olympics that I just didn't believe. Like, there were performances that stretched my credulity before, but those Olympics just made me think, this is kind of gone now. Like, this is not a sport anymore. This is a freak show.
Will you not watch any of Tokyo then?
I mean, I'm very busy at the moment anyway. Like, I'm busy with work, and I mean, it's one of those Olympics. Like, it's a kind of breastfeeders Olympics, really, isn't it? Like, everything's happening in the middle of the night. So if you had a newborn baby in the house, it would just be perfect,
Yeah.
But
so that comment was relevant in more way than one, given there was uproar over athletes who are currently breastfeeding.
Yeah.
That's what
I missed this. What happened?
I thought that's what you're referring to there for a minute.
So did I, Paul.
It's the Olympics for people up in the middle of the night.
But so Annie, there's I can't remember the name of the athlete in question, but essentially she was told, you're not allowed to have your baby anywhere near the village and that kind of thing. No, I don't care if you're breastfeeding, or the Olympics doesn't care if you're breastfeeding, rather.
Is it because the breast milk would infringe the intellectual property rights of Coca-Cola?
Possibly, yeah, or Premier Dairies, one of the two, yeah.
But did you see as well, Danny, with the US Paralympic athlete, that a blind athlete took herself off the team because she wasn't allowed to bring her aid with her.
So there's all sorts of being going on, and it does seem to be issues that are affecting women mostly. So the breastfeeding, that particular athlete, and then was it the Swedish or Norwegian or one of them, the handball team or something, who
that's right,
were told they can't wear shorts instead of bikini bottoms, and they were fined for trying to wear shorts rather than the bikini bottoms.
Yeah,
it's just, you're like, that's
the beach volleyball, was it?
Yeah,
it must have been that, actually. I don't know where it's saying handball. Yeah,
I went to the when I was in Sydney at the games. I went to the men's beach volleyball, right? Just because I had this theory that the women's beach volleyball was packed, and no one was at the men's beach volleyball, right? And I went along just to see and I was totally right. The women's event, right, was absolutely packed. All men. Like, that's all that was in the audience. Like, no women actually seemed to be interested enough in women's beach volleyball to actually watch it. They're certainly not interested in men's. The men's event was empty. No one was there.
Yeah. Even some of the sport.
That sounds like in the height of the Celtic Tiger when the deer hunter had 2 lap dancers out the back every Sunday morning. Remember that?
Yeah. I only brought it up to Rob today, actually.
That's a fact.
Lap dancing in the daytime, like that kind of thing. During
Midday on a Sunday,
right? Because when I was a young lad, right, and I was starting off in journalism, the news editor of the Tribune was Carl McQuilla, right, who was, beforehand and afterwards, worked for RTE, but he spent about 3 or 4 years as the news editor of the Tribune, and I was a freelance at the time, so I'd take any work I could get. Like I was trying to get into sport, but if somebody threw me a news piece, I'd do it, So Carl says to me, this was the summer of 1992. He said to me, I want you to do this story. He said, there's female mud wrestling happening in this pub just off Capel Street at 11 o'clock every Sunday morning, right? And
oh my Jesus.
This is 92. This is pre-divorce Ireland. Like, never mind repeal Ireland. Divorce is still illegal. Like, it was still very much a Catholic country, and so this was just scarcely believable that 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning there could be mud wrestling. So anyway, I was quite skeptical, but I went along, and in I went. I didn't hide my notebook. I was front and center. It was they knew I was a journalist, and nobody gave a shit, right? Nobody cared that I was actually writing about this. Right? So the whole setup was English. They flew the whole thing in, right? Lock, stock, on. The girls were all English. The compere was English, right? And he kind of started involving me in the show, right? So he's kind of saying, we've got the fucking Sunday Tribune here. Or you fuckers who told you what, if you were going to church this morning, you're fucked. And we had a photographer, and he's taking pictures, and all these men, sitting there in their briefs, like, wait, I thought, who's gonna get this big, massive, inflatable pool full of mud, about, I'd say, kind of probably a bit more than knee high, maybe thigh high, filled with mud. And, can we get some volunteers? All the hands shoot up, men diving in, the women just baiting the hell out of them. I met Jim Rock there, actually. Jim, it's the first time I ever met Jim Rock. Jim was
what was he doing there?
Jim was sitting in the front row in a pair of Tarzan briefs, and he says to me, that's the first time I actually got to know Jim. Jim was a really good friend of mine afterwards, But he says to me, what paper is this going to be in? And I thought he was threatening me, what paper is this going to be in? I said, it's in next week's Sunday Tribune. He says, I'll tell me Matt to get it. Right? And he rang me the next week. He was disappointed. The piece never ran in the end. Carl McQuilla decided it was too low rent to run the piece, And Jim rang me and said, geez, I'm very disappointed that didn't run. So it was very funny, but it was just mad, to think that
sounds absolutely crazy.
I never knew the deer hunter had that kind of antics going on either.
Oh,
yeah.
But sure, you'd bricklayers taking home $3,000 a week. They had to get rid of it fucking somehow. There was
the mud wrestling had gone from Capel Street, so
there was that much fucking money going around around that time. Lads sticking €50 notes in women's knickers at the back of the deer hunter. Yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah, mate of mine said he walked into his bathroom and the guy who was doing his plumbing was snorting coke off the back of his cistern at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Fucking hell!
There you go.
But lads, it's a great time in our lives, wasn't it?
I always say, right, what a time to be alive, because you're out Thursday to Sunday, and you still didn't even knock a hole in your wages. Sure, for fuck's sake, I know you've probably all heard this story, but there was mortgage stores everywhere, right? So you could be walking down Bagot Street, to be 5 or 6 mortgage stores.
Yeah.
you could be walking up through Dunleary, there'd be 10 mortgage stores. There's
Tell
all
your
these
story there, Gary.
That's what I'm about to do, Graham. Can you edit that out, Daniel, please?
Yeah, noted, Gary. Thank you.
Myself and Gemma were off one day. It was a Tuesday, and we said, sure, we'll do a pub crawl at Dunleary. So we started off in Smith's, and we had 2 drinks, and we got up to the top of Wellington Street, and there was a mortgage store called BMI Mortgages. And we said, should we go in for the crack and see what's happening here? Now, honest to God, under no pretense that we would be obliged to anything. So we gave the guy some details. And he said, look, I'll take all that on board and you'll probably hear from me in the next 7 to 10 days. We got as far as Hicks Butchers and my phone rang. And I said, hi, is that Gary? He said, yeah. He said, hi, this is Brian from BMI Mortgages. I said, hi, Brian. He says, yeah, I can get you approval for 305,000. Like that.
Jesus.
And I said, are you fucking serious or what? Because I didn't hit some of the criteria because I wasn't in the same job for more than 3 years. Gemma had been in the bank for a while. And then it just snowballed from there. But it was just a mad time to be alive. But like Paul says, you know, is the country suffering from it? Probably, yeah. But Jesus Christ, it was a great time to be alive.
I mean, look, let's be honest. Like the hangover from it was horrendous, right? But at the time, I remember The Wicked Wolf. The story that illustrates the Celtic Tiger better than any for me is The Wicked Wolf on a Monday night walking in there, and the old Coyote Ugly thing was big at the time, right? And there's 2 women standing on the bar in hot pants, cowboy boots, and Stetsons, right? And they're pouring vodka into the mouths of people. Like there's people just leaning back, dentist chair style on the bar. And these women are just walking the length of the bar and they're just pouring vodka into people's mouths. Free, like just pouring into their mouths. And that'd be a Monday night, like, you know. Every night in there was just mayhem. And then I remember going in there one around, it's kind of around the time, like Gary, I had an experience with a mortgage provider. I won't name them, like, you know, but they were really, really keen that I should borrow more money than I could possibly pay back. And I'm very conservative with money, like, you know, that's how I've ended up living down here, like, because, you know, so far from Dublin, because I was just terrified of borrowing enough money to buy a house in Cromlech Fields, which is where I wanted to live, like, you know. But I went into this mortgage provider and they said, oh, you know, so how much have you in the bank? And I showed them how much in the bank, and they were right. And they said, do you have any other accounts? And I said, yeah, I've got this account here, but, you know, and they said, well, what's that? I said, Jesus, you've got money in that. And I said, yeah, but I'm self-employed, so I take X amount out of every 100 quid I earn. I put the tax from that into this account, so it's a revenue account, you know. And he said, yeah, but you've got to include that. And I said, but it's not my money. And he said, we don't know that.
Jesus.
like that as well. Around 2004, 2005, I worked in motor finance. And I'd be dealing with new business through the garages and applications. And you'd have like applicants, mostly lads, say between 20 and 25, looking for 5, 6, 7, 8,000 euro for a car loan. Now, they mostly would have been used car loans. But I would basically input the application. I'd send it over to the underwriter. And loads of times, like I can't even, I lost track of the amount of times, but daily the underwriter would say to me, he's looking for 8 grand. Just tell him we'll give him 15 or 16, whatever he wants.
Jesus.
And like all the lads were like, holy shit, I can, instead of getting the Punto, I can get the Golf TDI.
Yeah.
And then about 3 years, so they would be getting those loans over 5 years. And 3 years into it, a lot of them would be coming back into the credit control department. Can't pay their bills because the arse was starting to fall out. Like
they figured out that it was still financially viable to have a model where 50% of people defaulted.
Yeah,
like they
that's crazy, though, isn't it?
They could still make money out of it. It was that great phrase at the time that you'd be described. You were debt poor. Like if you didn't owe anyone any money, you were dead poor, and they just placed this negative connotation on not owing anyone any money.
Yeah,
but it got so bad in that motor finance company that I worked in. Now they're gone, but it got so bad 3-4 years later after that example that the credit control department was doing overtime Saturdays and Sundays.
Jesus. But they were shuttered, like they were the first businesses to go, weren't they? After when the crash happened,
they were,
like they were shuttered within 2 weeks, if my memory serves me right. Like, you know, massive motor dealerships with SUVs in them were suddenly like shuttered overnight.
Yeah. Absolutely, they were.
It's mad because like I kind of missed the peak of it. Like I started college like 2007, 2008. The kind of the shit was hitting the fan. We were in the last days of the Roman Empire. So some of the stuff you were describing there, Paul, like going into the Wicked Wolf and guys fucking having vodka poured into their mouth and all that. There were still elements of that going on in some nightclubs. They were still trying to live out this kind of fake it till you make it almost fucking way of doing it. But you could, other than the college crowd who were just kind of like, well, we're in college, we're going to have the crack anyway or whatever. You could see the people who just, 18, 24 months ago were living this life, and now it was sitting at a bar and it was head and hands territory. It was a crazy flip, like, it was
Well, like even with that, like we would accumulate reports at the end of the month and then the end of the quarter to see how much that we'd be loaning out, and the number, like it didn't make sense that we were loaning out so much. And then you'd have the managing director and the bigwigs genuinely going down to the Galway tent, and then they'd be going to the Ryder Cup that was in the K Club and all. And
is this where you learned tricks of the trade then, Murdo, for your 2016 escapades?
Me, 2016.
Before 2016, so he's never paid for.
Well, that's actually true. Sorry, it would have been 2014, 15, wouldn't it? In the build up to.
Graham doesn't even know what an NCT or car tax is, for fuck's sake. But now the punch bowl was full and everybody kept drinking. But I have to say, it was a great time to be alive and working, because what a fucking party. Did we, as Paul says, was the hangover bad? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I'd love another go at it. 100%.
Yeah. I totally agree. And like I'm older than you lads, but I remember like not long before that when we were really poor. Like to borrow money in Ireland, like you were paying like 17% interest. It was really expensive to borrow money, and suddenly it just became like nothing to you. Culturally, there was a big cultural shift where like to borrow money for anything other than a house when I was a kid, right? It was considered like the height of recklessness. Like, if you went, like bank managers were serious people. Like they were staples of comedy, right? That I have to go in and meet the bank manager. It was considered like a big deal. And then suddenly bank managers were wearing short sleeve shirts and they weren't wearing ties, and you'd call them by their first names and stuff. It was a big cultural shift. And then they had ads on the television for banks. I remember one particular ad where there was an actor talking about how a loan from maybe AIB changed his life. And everybody knows the most untrustworthy profession in the world is acting, right? Because they're always unemployed. Like you're unemployed 90% of the time. So it was very, very deliberate that they chose an actor for that, because they're basically saying, we will lend money to fucking anyone. Like, even if you're an actor, right? We will lend you money. And but when I always tell the story about when I bought my first computer, like it was by a company called Wang, and Wang was this computer company in Limerick. But they never made the transition, because I think they thought the internet was going to be a fad or something, so they kind of ended when the internet came out. But
internet's not going to happen, like.
Yeah, I bought this Wang in 1993, and we bought it on what we used to call the never never. Like, it was on the electricity bill, and I paid so much out per month, and I think it cost about $4,000 or something over 7 years or something stupid. Like, it was really expensive. But my dad and mum had to offer the house as a guarantee against this loan of $4,000. Right? So that's 93. By the time I'd made the last payment on that computer, I was getting letters from the bank offering me 10 grand unsecured loan that I never even asked for. I never even said, can I have 10 grand? I got a letter from I was getting letters from banks I didn't even bank with offering me 10 grand. So for those of us who remember being poor, and I mean really poor, like it was such a cultural shock. It was huge culture shock.
Was it? Did you ever think, Paul, it was too good to be true?
Oh, every day. Every single day. I did. I knew there was going to be a reckoning. I didn't think it would happen so quickly, but yeah.
Well, I thought it was too good to be true when I was getting credit cards sent with 10 grand max on it. I was like, I didn't even apply for this credit card.
Yeah. I remember I called into the RDS one day. I was driving out of town and there was a Bulgarian property exhibition on. And, and
Gary bought a couple of apartments in Bulgaria, didn't you, Gary?
I did, yeah.
Well, nothing to be ashamed of. You know, a lot of people did. But I swung in just to have a look. And there's this guy, like, I'd say he was about 22 or something. Like, say he hadn't even started shaving yet, this guy. And he's telling me, you know, Bulgaria is the place to buy. And he was giving me the guns, like, Bulgaria is the place to buy, dude. And
giving me the guns.
And anyway, I said to him, can you give me some brochures to take away? Because I was just doing it to get information for Ross. Like, I thought this, like, I was taking all this Celtic Tiger stuff and putting it into the column at the time when I was with the Sunday Tribune. I said, can you give me some brochures to take away? And he said, we don't believe in them. Right? Right? And this wasn't for ecological reasons. Like, it wasn't to save on pet. They weren't the first paperless company. They were basically, there were no brochures because they didn't want you to give serious consideration to this. This was a snap decision that you were expected to take at the time. I remember as well that there were no chairs. There was nowhere to sit in this place. It was a big open plan hall, and it was just kind of high tables like you'd see in a bar with no stools, and then lads with laptops at them. And so there was no time. Like, the thing is, if you sat down, you might go, actually, this is fucking crazy. But if they kept you standing, you might go, look, just fucking do it. I'll buy it. And I'm sure they caught loads of people like that.
They did, of course. Just before the crash, Eddie Hobbs was punting for people to buy apartments in Spain on golf courses and stuff. Now, this is a man who was meant to be completely clued in to financial circumstances and obviously what came around the corner. But I suppose it's like anything in life. It's a gamble, isn't it? And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. I remember. Sorry, go on, Gar. Sorry.
No, but it's all about taking a chance, isn't it?
I wouldn't trust Eddie Hobbs now as far as I could throw him.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying. But like what you were saying there, Paul, like
I remember I used to go into the bank, right? And I had some money in the bank. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank, but I had some savings in the bank, you know. And every time I go in to pay me bills, right? Because I was very late to internet banking. I'm a bit of a technophobe, right? So I would go in with the ESB bill. I
had never noticed.
Yeah.
I would go in with the ESB bill and I say, can I pay this bill? And I go, yeah, no problem at all, you know. And they just kind of, and I go, you know, you've got some money in this account. And I go, well, yeah, it's me savings, yeah. Do you mind me asking, what are your plans for it? That's what they say. What are your plans? What are your plans, right? So I would just say, well, I just got fucking sick of it. Like, it was almost like they were shaming you about having savings, like that this was somehow, you know, errant behavior to actually say. So I just started being snarky to them. Like, when they said, what are your plans for the money? I said, well, really for you just to put it in your safe and to have it when I come and look for it, basically, which they didn't eventually, of course, you know, you had to fucking bail them out. But it was always, and they keep trying to set you up, you know, this money isn't actually working for you. You know, you should get this you want to get this working for you. And they try to set you up with some.
What does that mean? Like, what is working? What does that mean?
invest it. They're looking for you to invest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be deeply suspicious of it because we would have been raised to believe that you work for money, that money doesn't work for you. But there is a class of people, as we know, who believe that money actually does all of the heavy lifting and money does all the work. And during the Celtic Tiger, everybody started to believe, or at least they were trying to push that idea on people, that, for instance, we could all become landlords, like we fought wars against landlords in this country. Like ending landlordism was at the heart of the nationalist movement. That's what it was all about. It was about fucking out landlords. And as soon as we got a few bob, we all became landlords. Well, I didn't, but I mean, that was the thing. It was like, well, what am I going to do with this money? Why don't you just buy 5 houses and rent them out to people who can't afford a deposit? And we're living with the result of that today, where nobody can.
Big time, yeah.
I've well, I wouldn't say he's a mate. He's an acquaintance. I'll probably edit that out because he listens to the podcast and he hears this. I'm talking about him. I have a mate who he would consider himself a bit of a financial guru, and I don't always agree with him, but he's like that, the whole landlord thing. So he's done the whole have a buy to rent property. So he has his own gaff, but then he got a second gaff to basically rent it out, and that's what pays the mortgage on the rental property and on his own gaff. So this is what he does, and he, and like that, we've had the debate, the conversation with the kind of whole thing of like, you're kind of fucking people up and all. He doesn't give a shit about all that, but he's the same fella as well. Just when you were saying there about money should work for you, I'm fortunate enough to have a little pension with work, like, and he was like, do you control that, or do you just let it do its own thing? And I was like, I just let it do. Like, I was like, look, it comes out of my salary. It's and hopefully when I'm old, it's there. And he's like, no, man. You need to pick up the phone. You need to get onto them. You want it in what did he say? You want it in emerging markets and equities. That's what you want. Tell them that. And I was like, I don't understand any of that. And he's like, you don't need to understand it. You just need to trust me.
Yeah.
I was like,
the modern day version of that is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I mean, Gary,
I can't.
I don't understand. Can you listen? I'm delighted.
Gary, you say, Gary.
I don't understand it, right? Like, I can't turn on our television, and I'm not even exaggerating, right? So
Gary has the perfect analogy for people like that.
I don't know anything about Bitcoin, but I do know a couple of people who've done the whole Bitcoin thing now a long time ago, and have done okay out of it. But when Joe Soap on the street is telling you that if you're not doing that with Bitcoin, you need to get your head together, the ship has sailed.
Yeah,
it's gone. So. Yeah. I was in the barber's a couple of weeks ago and I'm waiting for me shot to get on the chair, like to get me tidy up and all that. And there's a fella telling the barber, "You doing that with Bitcoin?" Your man's like, "Oh no, I don't know anything about it." He said, "Oh man," he said, "I've done 40 grand the last 4 weeks." Now, this fella had a pair of Lacoste runners on that were older than me, so I don't think he's done 40 grand in the last 4 weeks. But I said, I know I wasn't rude, but I said, "Excuse me, do you mind me asking you? If I download an app and I put €10 into Bitcoin, can you tell me where the €10 goes? Because I don't understand it." And he says, "It goes into the stratosphere." And I said, "Okay." So I said, if I download the Power City app and I put a tenner into it, I can put a tenner off a washing machine or a dishwasher or whatever. I know where my tenner's gone. So can you explain to me what buying Bitcoin is? And he said, it's all about the atmosphere and the stratosphere. And I said, thanks very much. It's the ship is gone, lads, when Joe Soap is talking to you about it. That's a fact.
Yeah, somebody said to me years ago about the property market. I said that somebody in our company was saying, "Oh, Poland is the place to buy," and this guy said, "No. Poland was the place to buy 6 months ago." He said, "Well, where's the place to buy now?" And he said, "We won't know for another 6 months, and then it'll be somewhere else. Like, so there's so many of these, and Bitcoin kind of strikes me a bit like that. I don't know how it works, but it kind of sounds like snake oil to me.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, and I mean, I know we're all fucking, you know, you're using your tap with your debit card or whatever now, and all that kind of stuff, and even that stuff's still a bit. I'm still a bit shaky with it. I don't like this idea of everything contactless. Like, you know what I mean? I've a tenner in my wallet, and I don't know if it's worth a tenner anymore as such. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, the whole Bitcoin thing and all. It all sounds very sexy, and it all sounds very. But I mean, I couldn't walk into Dunn's in the morning, fill up my trolley, and then get to the counter, and when your one says cash or card, and I go, no, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They're not. Your one's gonna look at me as if I'm fucking high. Like, do you know what I mean?
She definitely would in Dunn's and Arklow. Right. Oh, by the way, since we're on that subject,
that was a segue, Paul. Yeah.
Good segue, Paul.
What about that? Flawless, lads. Flawless. See, one of the reasons I was just delighted you emailed last week is I've been keeping this to myself, like this story that happened very recently in Dunn's and Arklow, and I just need to talk to someone about it. Anyways, it was
Gary's the man, I'd say, is he?
Well, yeah, I think I'll get a sympathetic hearing from Gary, even if I don't from you two. Right?
He is Arklow's agony aunt. So
there was some minor rule breaking on my part, right? Norm breaking, I would say, rather than rule breaking. But essentially, I'm in Arklow. I've a basket full of provisions, right? And I make my way to the 10 items or less counter, right? Where the cashier says to me, sorry, you've got more than 10 items there, right? I had 14 items in the basket, right? The supermarket was almost empty. There was nobody behind me in the queue, absolutely nobody behind me in the queue. And he made me go and stand behind a woman with a full trolley, right? Because he didn't want to put 4 extra items through. And it was just so he just sat there doing nothing. So, Jesus, that really helped to talk about that. Thanks, Gary.
There's a little trick with that, Paul. You tell them you're doing 2 separate transactions. Slightly awkward for you, it's, you know what I mean, but just, I've done it before. I had a similar incident before at an express checkout. And I said, oh yeah, no, but it's 2 separate transactions. I'm doing a quick shop for my mum as well.
Yeah. I should have done that. Or do you know what I should have done, actually?
Did you not debate with him, Paul? Did you not say, look?
No. You can't debate with stupid.
Yeah, you can't fix it. You can't fix
stupid and incompetent is a hell of a combination.
But the whole experience of the Bridgewater Shopping Centre in Arklow is exactly what you've just described, because that's where Dunn's is. So, like, Eason's, for example, in the Bridgewater in Arklow is an absolute experience, because the majority of the people that work there are aggressive. And now I know you have connections, Paul, to Easton, so I don't expect you to expand on this.
I've always found them excellent, Gary. Like, I have to say, but your own experiences are your own. But
they're a favourite bookshop of this podcast, I'll say.
Yeah, Aldrin Adams and the Cheese Nightmares is available to buy, but
especially in Easton's, it's
in all good bookshops and some rubbish ones too.
Go on, Morris Mackle.
I had an incident, many an incident in Easton's and Arklow, and I asked, was it company policy to employ aggressive lesbians? Because they're so fucking rude at times. Now, I would have been buying school books and stationery for the kids and stuff. And the experience is very unpleasant. But TK Maxx in there as well. An absolute shit show. Argos, a shit show. GameStop, a shit show. I don't know. Would you, not with Eason's, Paul, but would you agree generally that the experience of the Bridgewater is underwhelming?
Yeah, Eason's. I love the Eason's in there, and I find the staff very helpful, and
surprised at that.
And I'm always in there. But I tell you, there's been a couple of cafes in there where I had bad experiences, like, where I was in there once, and somebody on the counter started serving people who were behind me in the queue because they knew them, like, And
it
just makes me mad. It's just straight out, you know. But I had another experience in that same Dunn Stores once where I was drinking a coffee, and this junior manager guy, who was about 20, came up to me and said, sorry, no eating or drinking in the store. And there was a woman giving out free samples of chicken dippers about 10 feet away. And so I said, what about that? He said, it doesn't matter, it's not allowed. And he went over.
Sounds like the IOC.
He took a chicken dipper and he ate it, and then went back into the junior manager's office. So it was just really obnoxious, like just unnecessarily obnoxious. But anyway, the guy, what I should have done looking back, Danny, really is I should have just said, actually, do you know what? I think I'll leave these items, and then just walked out of the shop.
Yeah.
Really,
yeah.
You know. Yeah. But I'm a moral coward. Really.
You'd avoid confrontation, would you, Paul?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be fair to say that. No. You know, no, that wouldn't be fair at all. I do like a row. You know, I think it kind of gets the head up and pumping occasionally. You know, I don't know. Was I telling you on the podcast last time? Was I telling you before about the man shouting at me because of Humphrey?
No, you told me about this privately, Paul. This is a cracker.
No.
Well, I'm walking Humphrey on a Sunday morning in a park, and Humphrey barked. It was like 10:20, 10:30 on a Sunday morning, and suddenly I have this man leaning out his window, naked from the waist up, possibly from the waist down as well, for all I know. But he was kind of standing at the window ledge, shouting at me that he was trying to have a lie-in. And anyway,
was this in Stillorgan?
Yeah.
Oh, you did tell us.
And
you didn't tell us on the podcast.
Didn't tell us on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
There was a bit of an exchange between us. Let's just say, you know, there was an exchange, a sharp exchange of views. And he said to me, "You're all dog lovers, so I'd say you'll see the humor in this." He said to me, "Train your dog." And I said, "What do you mean train him?" He said, "Train him not to bark." And he said, "That's like saying train your children not to cry. Like, you know, it's just it's not going to happen, you know." And he said, "But it's bothering me." And I said, "But it doesn't bother me. That's the thing. It doesn't bother me." So anyway, we're shouting at each other, Romeo and Juliet style, like him from the window and me from down below, and a sharp exchange of views, shall we say. But anyway, about 5 days later, I was back in the park, and he was up in the window taking photographs of me with a long lens camera.
Jesus. So
I just said to him, open the window. So he opened the window, and I just said, "You're having a breakdown, mate." This was last year. This was lockdown 2, like, you know. And we'd all been in the house far too long at that stage, you know. And I said, "You're having a breakdown." I said, like, you know, you need to get out, go and meet some people, talk to people, and
get a dog.
But I don't mind a confrontation now. I kind of, you know, somebody whistles at me or beeps me in their car. As happened yesterday, man was kind of beep, 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 beep at me in his car to tell me he was angry about, you know, the way I'd parked. I'm straight up to the window to talk to him. Like, I love it. Like, if in the right, now, I wouldn't be aggressive or anything, but I wouldn't shrink away from it.
You can't be a random row with the public. It's fantastic. It can go anywhere, like.
Yeah, I get the feeling, Gary, that you've a recent one or two in you there.
Ah, Jesus, yeah. Obviously, in my work domain, there's a lot of confrontation. People come into our place for a row, you know. It's them against us for some reason. They don't realise we have bills and fucking feral little fuckers to feed, and we have to work, and that's what our line of employment is. But you just have to rise above it and
What was
laugh.
the customer you had, Gary, with the mask?
Oh, during the first lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fella come into the shop and no mask on him, you know. His nickname was Homer, actually. Homer, you have to have a mask on. He says, I don't have one. I said, well, you have to have one or you can't come in. And he says, I'm not going to be long. I said, well, you have to have one. You can't come into the shop. And one of the customers says, here, Homer, I'm going now in a second. You can have mine. And, of course, there's your man hands his mask to Homer and Homer comes in and does his business. Like,
Jesus.
Listen, we're trying to stop the spread of a virus here, and these are literally French kissing. Now,
but Gary,
is the real virus, though, isn't it, Gary?
Exactly. We share the island with morons. You just have to look to Twitter today with the hashtag #NotMyPresident because of the bill that the president signed, and people not realizing what powers the president had. The president has no power. And
but unfortunately, like what we're living, like it's mad. Like if you think about it, people who don't want to take the vaccine have a huge issue with people who have took it. But people who wanted it and have took it couldn't give a fuck about people who don't want it. This soap opera has kind of occurred from COVID where we have these online superheroes who think it's a hoax and who think it's coercion, and we're being, if you take the vaccine, there's a Bluetooth section in your kneecap to tune you to fucking not drink water. It's just fucking mad. But I think it comes from maybe people being locked up for too long, going down rabbit holes. Gemma O'Doherty stuff, really, isn't it? You know.
What is it that you said, Gary? Though that you said that you said to me that I guarantee if you told them that, what did you say? Or that if they would take the vaccine if it was.
Oh yeah, what I said was, because Luke O'Neill has been talking about it, if in the next 5 to 10 years there's a vaccine for cancer, which please God there is, would you take it? Right? So if there was a vaccine for cancer, we'd all hop off it, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Queuing up at fucking 3 a.m. to get it. People won't take it because it's COVID. I guarantee if there's a vaccine for cancer, they would. But it's the same people who won't take the vaccine, shovel shit up their nose Thursday to Sunday. I don't think
I can vouch. I know someone who was a heavy recreational drug user who took stuff, didn't even know what it was, who wouldn't take the vaccine.
Yeah, it boils my piss, like, you know.
Yeah, I know a few of them. I know.
If you could get high off it, they'd be a lot more succcious take up, wouldn't there? Like probably, if you got a buzz off the vaccine, say if your jaw kept going like that, and you wanted to hug everyone for about 4 hours afterwards, and you just kept dancing all the way out of the Aviva, and then it just suddenly wore off. I think there'd be a bigger take up, like, you know. So I think they're missing a trick. Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer and everything. They just need to put a buzz into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like, I believe in choice. If you don't want to take it, don't take it. But don't be telling people who want to take it or feel that they should take it that it's a hoax or it's coercion.
I've muted and unfollowed an awful lot of people on social media over the last 12 months.
Yeah, same.
A lot of people who, like, you know, you wouldn't see them often, but if you saw them in the shops, you'd stop and have a chat for them. And if I saw them in the shops now, I'd go down another aisle and try to get the fuck out as quick as I could. Like,
But do you think there's two worlds here, Danny? Like, do you think there's the social media world and there's the real world, right? And I know people, friends of mine, who I get on great with. When I see them on Twitter, I just go, "Who is this guy?" If I didn't know this person, I would think they would. You know, I just think there's something wrong there, like, you know. But I think the thing that we're all learning about Twitter, I've had a couple of friends of mine have had really sharp lessons in this over the last year or so with cancellings and stuff like that. Yeah. We're not meant to communicate with each other in this large group, in such a large group, right? You know, so if you've got 3,000 Twitter followers, right? you can kind of start to fool yourself into thinking that it's like a group of friends or something, you know. But it's not like Facebook. Facebook, you could kind of say, well, most of the people who follow me are people who like me, or people who exes who are stalking me, or people who are following me and like pretending to wish me well but despise me, or something like that, you know. But with Twitter, you're followed by all these people who might like something you said about Liverpool, but might hate something you said about COVID or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
100%.
get drawn into rows with these people, and then you start to think your job is to keep all of these people on side. It's not, your job isn't even to talk to these people. We're not hardwired to have 20 or 30,000 people in our lives whose approval is important to us, whose opinion is important to us. You know, I scroll down through my Twitter feed every morning, and I'm just reminded of two things. Like, first thing is, it's not important to have an opinion on absolutely everything. And the second thing is, the three most underrated words in the English language: I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody on Twitter says, I don't know. It's that sureness everybody has about absolutely everything, you know.
Oh,
let
me ask you, Paul, right? During this time, right, the last 16, 7 months, actually, it's open to the floor. Why have people we know, people we class as acquaintance, friends, family, that use social media, why have they suddenly accepted the words of someone from social media as opposed to an expert? Why are they taking the gospel of Joan up the road or David down the road as opposed to, as Gary referenced, Luke O'Neill? Or why are people getting fed up of Luke O'Neill on the telly when he is passing a scientific message? Like, I don't get it. I don't get, like, why people are just saying, well, so-and-so said this and you heard about this, and they're getting their information from Facebook.
Well, see, it's actually perfect. What's happening at the moment is perfect for that kind of thing you're talking about, right? Because the authorities have never faced anything like this before. Like, you know, like Spanish flu is the last thing that's comparable to this, and Spanish flu wasn't even covered in the newspapers at the time. Killed 25 million people worldwide. I was talking to Roddy Doyle at an event, and Roddy, when he was researching A Star Called Henry and that trilogy he did around the Easter Rising, he said he read all the newspapers from kind of 1916 to, you know, 1924, and Spanish flu was rampant at the time. He said it just wasn't covered in the papers, right? So now it's just, this is the only thing it's the top of the news agenda all the time. But this experiment, and it is an experiment really in locking people down. We've never done this before. And I think they've made an awful lot of mistakes. They've given out a lot of misinformation. And they've had to, you know, even the chief medical officer in Britain yesterday released a statement saying, you know, I think he said something like 60% of people admitted to hospital in the UK have COVID. And then he put out a correction later on saying, oh, sorry, what I meant was the exact opposite of what I said, you know? Yeah. So there's a lot of this kind of stuff. Now, the problem is the rules of lockdown, because it's a totally unnatural thing to tell somebody to lock down, right? They have to invent rules like, well, you know, if you buy a €9 meal, then you can go to a pub. And if you only stay for 105 minutes, and those kind of things, because they're making them up as they go along, are just open to ridicule because they just seem arbitrary. You know, it just seems like they've just made that up on the spot, 105 minutes. So it's easy to take the piss out of that. And we all know that these rules, the 105 minutes and the €9 meal, is essentially to stop what happened on St. Patrick's Day just after the pandemic arrived, which was just like hundreds of people absolutely hammered with their social, you know, inhibitions blown away, hugging each other, singing Sweet Caroline, all the rest of it. That's essentially, they're trying to stop Paddy going on the piss. That's what all of those rules are about. But there's so many of these rules. They've made so many mistakes. They've, saying at the beginning that masks won't help, and now masks are mandatory. Saying that those tests you do yourselves don't work, and now there's talking of bringing them in. So where there's mistakes and misinformation and gaps in knowledge, that's where myths and bullshit floods in to fill the void. It's all about 100%. Filling the void. And you got to remember, I think generally we're very gullible. Like we were talking about the Celtic Tiger earlier on. Like Aircom shares. I'll just give you that as an example. Aircom shares. Anybody who's ever had any experience of ringing Aircom with a complaint would probably know that this is not the kind of company you would want to own shares in, because it just, if you have experience of dealing with their customer relations people, you'll know that, and you're waiting for an hour or something to talk to someone, or you're waiting a week for an engineer, you think, well, that doesn't seem to be a company that I would like to own. I don't think it'd be financially wise to have an investment in that company. And yet it was oversubscribed, and tens of thousands of people who threw money into Aircom shares because they were told, like so many other things during the Celtic Tiger, you'd be mad not to do it. You'd be utterly mad not to do it. And I think we are generally gullible people. We're easily led.
I think there's 100% right, Paul. 100% right. I fully agree with everything you said there. And I think the point you're making around the whole, where there's confusion from what's supposed to be the voice of authority, it gives that kind of, like, and look, we don't exactly have a very popular government. You know what I mean? It's held together by fucking Pritt Stick and Blue Tack. And you have then this mass discontent anyway. So any time that government looks weak, it gives people who don't want that government there the chance to say, right, well, we're going to make them look even more stupid than they are. So all this kind of false narrative and this kind of misleading information plays into it. And you get this circle jerk then of people who, they want to listen to their mate who also doesn't like the government because they want confirmation bias. They want to feel as though I'm right and they're wrong. And they have this false suspicion of, you constantly hear mainstream media or the MSM, and it's kind of like, rather than them actually going out and buying the Irish Times or fucking, buying the Sunday Business Post or whatever, they're taking it off Gripped, or they're taking it off one of those fucking Facebook pages that claim to be a news site. And, I'm baffled by the amount of people that I see sharing those kind of stories from those kind of places that they have an ulterior motive, they have an agenda.
How often, can I ask you lads, you are all on Twitter, how often do you think about leaving?
Fairly regularly. All social media. The only one that I actually enjoy, the only one that I kind of like using is Instagram. I get a bit of crack out of Instagram. It seems a lot more sane than all the other ones. But
I love Twitter for nights like, say, when Italy lose the European Championship final.
Italy win the European Championship final.
Sorry, Italy win I meant to say England lose. Where it becomes a bit of satire. But there are definitely times through 16 months where I've said to myself, instead of it, because I do enjoy Twitter, but instead I just mute people. I like Instagram is my friend. I like
the mute button, and even muting certain words on Twitter has made it a lot better over the last 12 months for me. Like, I've pretty much any phrase to do with Shamrock Rovers I have muted. You'll never walk alone, YNWA, Red
Liverpool
Men,
Football Club,
LFC. Yeah. All those terms are muted
Danny,
for me.
You would have missed me saying Liverpool Football Club at least once a week for the last 3 years. I'll email them to you.
Once a fucking week? Once a day?
Once a day. Gary, what do you think on the subject?
I was never on social media.
No, I just mean about the whole, people believe
the rabbit hole stuff.
Yeah, no, people believe in what John and Mary say from Facebook as opposed to experts.
Well, what Paul says obviously about gullibility, but I think a lot of it is to do with a lot of people haven't done anything for the last 17 months but scroll through their phones. And you look at something and you read it and you go, oh my God. Then you go to the next thing. And then it leads you to maybe a publication who tells you that it's a hoax. And you're down the rabbit hole then. It's too late, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember listening to a doctor who his job is to create vaccines for tropical diseases. And he was being interviewed at the start of this process. And he also researched a book, or he also wrote a book about it. I think it was called, it was something along the lines of, because his son was born with autism. So he wrote the book to debunk the lies that linked vaccines to autism. And he basically said, I researched the book. I have a PhD. I'm an expert in this field. I proved in my book that there's no link between vaccines and autism. And he said the saddest thing about the release of that book is that in the Amazon top 10 or wherever it was, he was number 10, and the 9 books on the exact same topic, were written by nobodies. When he's the doctor, the professor in all of this, the 9 previous books are written by
the only thing I'd say about that is you need to be a little bit careful not to make kind of a false god out of people who have just the initials doctor, and you know what I mean.
Oh no, I 100% agree.
Dolores Cahill is an example of that, you know what I mean. And I can't remember who someone made the point to me a long time ago, and it fucking stuck with me because like, you're 100% right. In any field, in any fucking anything, you know what I mean? You go off to medical school and whatever, and it could be 30 people in your class. Somebody has to finish bottom of that class. Somebody's just about scraped fucking through. You know what I mean? And there's always...
Well, Danny, like, there's always... Like, the other thing is, like, just intelligence, the intelligence it takes to pass an exam, you know... It's not always you know, a great skill in sort of proving that you're a leader. Like I knew people in college and school who were incredibly smart people, but Jesus Christ, you wouldn't have trusted them to direct a seagull to the coast, like, you know. And there are people in college who are top of the class who are deeply dysfunctional people. Like, you know, it doesn't necessarily. I don't think it necessarily accords that because somebody's intelligent that they should be trusted, especially you know.
My point in all that was that he scientifically proved in his book that there's no link, but the previous 9 books didn't scientifically. But they were top of the charts.
I heard Ricky Gervais was interviewed, and I was listening to this it's a brilliant interview, and they were talking about the process of testing your movie in front of an audience. You know about this, that they basically, there's so many movies had totally different endings that they went back and reshot because they got 50 or 100 people in off the street and got them to watch it. And then they wrote down their opinions and went to the director and went, yeah, but we think this should happen in the end. These 100 randomers think this should have happened in the end. And some people believe in it, and some people don't believe in it. But some studios absolutely insist on it because it actually, scientifically, it works, right? They've proven that if they let the audience decide whether, you know, Marley, the dog, should die in the end or not, then it will be a successful hit, right? So they're not idiots, these people. But Ricky Gervais was talking about, apparently, they tested Rain Man, right? And they got 100 people to watch it. And one of the comments was, I thought it was absolutely brilliant, but I thought the little lad would have snapped out of it by the end. And it was such a great story, right? It's such a great story that illustrates that the public, you're dealing with idiots.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what we're dealing with on social media. But speaking of rabbit holes, like, do you ever click on any of them? You won't believe what Michelle from EastEnders looks like now.
Yeah.
Love them.
Hell,
The amount of days I've lost at work, right, from clicking one of them things, like, what's your man, Gunter? You won't believe what Gunter out of Friends looks like now. I click on it. He looks the exact fucking same. He hasn't changed a bit in 30 years. Exact same. Michelle from EastEnders just looks like Michelle from EastEnders 30 years later. But then you see, there's a click on that and it goes, you know, you won't believe this heartwarming moment between a father and his daughter. And you're like, click on that, just have a look at that, you know. And then You won't believe what these dolphins did to save this man's life. I could just disappear down those holes forever.
Yeah, and every time, and this is where we're all idiots, because every time I see it, I know I'm going to be disappointed by it, but I'll still click. I'll still go have a look, you know. So, or the one, it left me fucking. I had to step away from the computer. It was do you ever see those videos of kids after they get the cochlear implants and they hear things for the first time?
Stop the
light. Listen, right? So it was one of them, and it was, you won't believe this parent's reaction to, or this child's reaction to their parents' voice or whatever, right? And I thought it was going to be one of those cochlear implant videos, and I was ready to, I was like, right, that's it. Oh, I have the fucking tear ducts are going to be working overtime. Here we go. The parent was shouting at the child from upstairs, and the kid was just doing an impression back. And that was apparently the reaction you couldn't believe. And they were like, the opening paragraph was fucking pulling you in. And by the time I got to like the third page you have to click, I was like, hang on a second, something's not right here. This isn't going. Gary's getting angry there. You're right, Gar.
Fucking 10-year-old or whatever age she is. Move.
Or 10 celebrities. 10 celebrities you won't believe are gay, right? That's one. I clicked on that one, right? Number 3 was Elton John. Who the fuck? Like, who doesn't know Elton? What have you been in a fucking diabetic coma for the last 30 years? How do you not know Elton John isn't gay? Ellen DeGeneres was in there, right? She was number 7. Number 8 was Portia de Rossi, our wife. Come on.
Yeah. You get the feeling they fucking just pull lists out of a hat, don't you? They're like, right, well, who's making that list today? And you get that list finished, you can go home early.
See, they call this is what happened when they replaced journalism with content, right?
Oh, content.
I see journalism jobs advertised now that would have been called, would have said journalist wanted. Now it says content provider wanted.
Yeah.
And like content, the term content provider, it really upsets me when I see journalists describing themselves as content providers, because the phrase content provider was invented by somebody who doesn't have any respect for what you do, right? That's a term of contempt. You don't have to use it for yourself. You can call yourself a journalist. If what you're doing is investigating things and writing stories, you're a journalist, you don't have to call yourself content provider. But anyway, that's another one, me bugbears. Jesus, I tell you something, getting them all off my chest tonight, and I'm feeling great about myself.
Yeah, I think we might have to call it a night, lads.
I was going to say, yeah, it's been a bit of a different pace than we'd normally have, but I just realised it's 11:15. Lads, I haven't been able to sleep a wink with this heat. I'm fucking, it's brutal. Like, if a fan going in the bedroom and just, but I can't wait for the colder weather. I don't care.
It's going to rain, I think, the day after tomorrow. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Rain on Saturday, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
We're not meant for this either. We're not.
We've no aircon or no swimming pools. We're not built for it.
We're not built for it at all. Now we got a paddling pool, and we said it was for the dogs to keep them cool. I've been in it more than they have.
When the small of your back is sweating. That's just wrong. I
have a permanent layer of moisture on my forearm.
Yeah,
it's not, and there's no.
But everyone's happy, and that's all that matters.
I'm not, Graham. I'm miserable, and that matters more to me.
You're always miserable.
You know what I mean? Well, look, I just want to say it.
Well, Gary, thanks so much. As always, Gary, would you like to sign us out?
Well, hang on. Before we do, just Paul, congratulations on the book, by the way, Aldrin Adams.
Thank you. There's a character named after Gary, and I asked him permission. Could I use? He's called Maurice Mackle, and I asked permission. I'm always looking for names. I'm always looking for interesting surnames.
We weren't going mad at all. Me and Danny, we that introduced you two together.
I figured
we weren't going mad at all.
I figured it was revenge over the whole us saying such and such is our favourite guest, and such is our favourite guest. This is how you got us back.
If you plug me and Gary and our new arts centre, right? Then there's a very art centre /
lap dancing club.
Adult education centre. If you plug that repeatedly, then I might name a character after you guys.
We better be featured in Normal Sheeple.
No, that's written, but you might get in the next one.
That's oh shit, yeah, that's it.
It is, yeah.
So we started reading Aldrin. We bought it when it came out, and we haven't finished it because as Aldrin came out, the school holidays were kicking in and stuff. So Charlie's reading routine is kind of scuppered. But he's saying, if I eat cheese now, am I going to be able to get into people's nightmares and stuff? I said, give it a go and see. So
he's in the fridge scoffing the easy singles, is
he? He doesn't know though that there's a character called Maurice Mackle in it. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to eat cheese. So I'm doing the promotion for the book. I'm talking about cheese all the time. I'm fucking writing the new book, the second one in the series, and I'm just writing about cheese all the time. And I have this dietary thing at the moment. I'm off like dairy and red meat and alcohol and just about anything nice to put in your mouth. I'm off it, and so it's killing me, But I'm getting.
Paul, surely you've written a cartoon, have you, about Aldrin?
I haven't yet. No. But just in case anyone from Disney is listening, the rights are available, and if Coca-Cola want to sponsor it, I might even ask you to remove that earlier thing.
Pacho works for Coca-Cola.
The thing I said earlier about the world's best loved soft drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pacho works for Coca-Cola, does he?
Pacho works for Coca-Cola, yeah.
That's why Ronaldo moved the bottle.
Yeah.
It was triggering.
Paul, the bit of stubble suits you, might I say?
Oh, I just got very lazy, since I don't have any energy since I stopped eating as well. It's kind of, this isn't a fashion thing. I just haven't got the willpower to do it.
Does Mary
you're like a more handsome version of Del Boy Hutch, Jerry DeMonk's nephew.
Jesus, the streets in Dublin city centre I probably shouldn't walk down. Jesus Christ.
Paul, again, congratulations on the book.
Thanks,
Gary, sorry, I rudely interrupted Graham asking you to do the outro. If you'd be so kind.
Yeah, we're available on Spotify, RT Player, ITV Hub. If you hit the red button during Love Island, you can watch us there. We're also available via iTunes if you have a voucher for Kellogg's. You can get us there. Also available on Apple Podcasts, Acast, anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you include the code WTS Pod in an Argos transaction, you get 15% off.
But not in Arklow.
No, Dunleary.
Yeah. Gary, thank you very much for that. Lads, as always, it has been a pleasure.
See you next month.
See you next month, lads. Pleasure.
Until next time, Graham.
Mind yourselves.
All hearts.
Cheers,
lads.